You're now tuned into Radical Radio with Coach L.
Switch my attitude. I'm so radical. Switch my attitude. I'm so radical. Switch my attitude. I'm so radical. Switch my attitude. I'm so radical.
Radical Radio is designed to get to the heart of our guest stories. Oftentimes, you see people moving and they make it look so easy. Many don't know the story behind the journey, the heartache, the disappointment, the wins, or even the loss. What has it cost you? We are removing the stigma of judging a book by its cover and gaining perspective from our guests in the most radical way, in their own words. Testimonies are meant to be shared to help others move forward. That's the radical way, y'all. Let's go. You can't heal what's hidden, and you can't break chains you don't acknowledge. The word says the truth shall set you free. Be true to yourself and allow the plan that God has had for your life to live. That's radical, living unapologetically bold and purposely authentic. Stay tuned for the Radical Coaching Moment with Coach L. What's good, everybody? What's good? Happy Monday. Happy Monday. Thank you guys for joining me. This is your girl, Coach L of the Radical Radio Show. I am the visionary and founder of Radical Radio and all things radical. I am a certified spiritual life coach of Radical Life Coaching. I am a Kingdom Marketplace dealer of radical eyewear and accessories. And I am also the host of this awesome platform, Radical Radio. So I thank you guys for joining me this evening. It is now time for us to go ahead and tap in to this radical coaching moment. I want to thank my mom for coming on. Hey, Mom. I want to thank my sister Aisha for coming on. Happy New Year, sis. I love you so much. I'm so proud of you. I need for you, sis, tag below the name of the new EP that you just dropped so we can send everybody over there to cop that EP because it's amazing. It's dope. My sister is doing some big things this year. So y'all go ahead and we're going to tag the information for you guys to go check her out. That's Coach Aisha Neal. So thank you for joining us, sis. I appreciate you. This is the first show of 2021. We have officially made it over to 2021. So we have survived 2020 and we are now in the first month of 2021. So I want to thank God for getting us all here and bringing us all over to 2021. So this radical coaching moment has the title, Be Content. And I'm gonna share a few things with y'all on why I'm saying be content, right? Because as I was preparing for this show, I was trying to figure out if I was even going to be able to do the show. I didn't even know if I would be well enough to do the show. Why? Because on Wednesday, December, I think that was the 30th. Yep. Wednesday, December 30th. I went and had to go get tested for COVID and I received my test results back on Friday and it stated that I was COVID positive. Nevertheless, I believe that God is a healer. I believe that God can heal my body and he will heal my body. I thank everyone that has prayed for me and lifted me up thus far. I will say that, it has not been an easy feat, but I do declare healing over my body. So I thought about it and I was like, I had some questions for God and I'm like, why at the end of the year, I remember I was praising God and thanking God and saying, Lord, thank you for getting me through 2020 without having to deal with COVID in my own body. Now, I did have to, take care of my mom when she was going through and she was ill. But I just kept thanking God and saying, Lord, I thank you for allowing me to not have to go through COVID in my body this year. And then here we are, December 30th, I ended up having to go get tested. But I'm going to tell y'all something. the one thing, and don't think it's ratchet, I'm in the bed, I'm trying to be safe. I'm trying to, be healthy still, and, not cause any harm to my family members. So I am, doing this radical show from the bed. So God is still good. I was able to feel well enough to come on and do this show. So I thank God for all that he's doing. But I want to say this. In 2020, I don't want to be the one to keep on talking about some, well, in 2020, this what happened. In 2020, that's what happened. But the word says that we are to be content in every circumstance, right? So I'm going to read to you guys Philippians 4:11 through 13. I think I'm going to go to. So it says, the title of it says, content whatever the circumstances, right? So it says, I'm glad in God, far happier than you would have ever guessed. Happy that you're again showing such strong concern for me. Not that you ever quit praying and thinking about me. You just had no choice to show it. Actually, I don't have a sense of needing anything personally. I've learned by now to be quite content, whatever my circumstances. I'm just as happy with a little as I am with much as I am a little. I found the recipe for being happy, whether full or hungry, hands full or hands empty. Whatever I have, whatever I am, I can make it through anything in the one who makes me who I am. All right. So that right there, that means everything to me. Because I have been homeless. I have had, many mansions. I have had great jobs. I have had not so great jobs. My kids have done great in school. They have not done great in school. They have made good choices. They have made bad choices. I have made good choices. I have made bad choices. In all circumstances, I have learned that if God allowed us to wake up and rise, then that means that there is work for us to do, and we are to be content in every area of our life, whether it's up or down. We are to be content. So that is the radical coaching moment of today. I want to encourage my people, my radical people out there that are listening and that are listening to my voice. I want to encourage you, be content in all circumstances, because I'm here to tell you, if we made it through 2020, God still has some work for us to do. He still has assignments with our name on it. So 2021, no matter what it looked like, no matter what you think should happen or could happen or shoulda, coulda, woulda happen, God is saying to us in Philippians, he is saying to us, be content. Be content in whatever the circumstances are, whether it's good or bad, still be content. Still praise God. Still give God glory and praise and honor and give his name power. That's what we're supposed to do. That's the let me see. I can say this. That's what radical is. You understand what I'm saying? It's being unapologetically bold and purposely authentic, but it's also moving the way that God has called you to move, and not being concerned with what other people think, and not being concerned about, how other people are moving. You have to move the way that God is calling you to move. What is for you is for you. Can't nobody take it away. It's a lot of people out here that we're all going to embark on some of the same things, but what God has for you, it is for you. So I just want to thank you guys for rocking with Radical Radio. This is our first show of the year, and I'm lit. I'm excited. I'm very happy. I reached out to this amazing young man, 21 years old. Y'all don't even know. Like at 21, I was like off the chain and wasn't doing nothing like this. But when I tell y'all, this young man took it upon himself. He is an independent photographer out of Chicago. He took it upon himself to go out into the Chicago protest over the summer. And then he went ahead and he authored a book behind it. And I'm going to tell y'all how I found this guy. When I tell y'all God is in the midst of everything that I do, I found this young man just off of a newspaper article, and I just started reading. When I tell y'all I was reading the newspaper article, and I got chills right now, I was like, this is so dope. Like, the fact that he took his gift and made sure that he was able to be a part of history, and he stamped. Let me tell y'all, he stamped his name. That brother stamped his name on history. Okay. And nobody had to, tell me that this was a worthwhile story to share. I really wanted to, hear this young man's story. I really wanted to hear all about him and how he came up with this vision to do what he was doing. So that's how I found him. And I'm so excited to have him on here with us today. I'm going to read just a short bio that I have for him. This is Mr. Vashon Jordan Jr. that we have on here. He is a 21-year-old visual artist born and raised in Chicago, Illinois. He uses photography and videography to showcase authentic stories and moments that reflect the people of Chicago. Vashon enjoys engaging with youth across the city to inspire and encourage them to follow their dreams. He received his associates in arts from Kennedy King College and is currently studying at Columbia College of Chicago. So, radical people, y'all better enjoy and get ready to ask some questions of this bright, young 21-year-old Vashon Jordan. Thank you for joining us, Vashon.
Thanks so much for having me. Welcome to 2021. Super excited to be on the first show.
Yes, I'm excited about it too. I'm telling you, like when I read your story, I was like, I gotta reach out to him. I gotta reach out to him. So usually what I do is I start Googling and trying to see, you know, what the Instagram handles are and stuff.
There's
And I'm
a ton of stuff out there about me, yeah.
yeah. So I said, oh, he on Twitter. So I got in there. I was like, let me get
Yeah.
in there and see if I can grab my brother. And lo and behold, you did come on and you
Yeah.
did accept the invitation. So I thank you for coming on to Radical Radio, sir.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. So we're gonna go ahead and get straight into it.
Let's do it.
You are a independent photographer,
Yep.
straight out of Chicago, Illinois, and you have done some things here. Went to school. You got your associates in at Kennedy King.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? What part of Chicago are you from? Because you know Chicago is pretty big.
Yeah.
Tell us about you.
Yeah, so I was born, right here in the city of Chicago, spent a little bit of time over in Cabrini Green before it got torn down, moved over to Auburn Gresham, and I've been over on the far south side in West Pullman since about fourth grade now. I'll be graduating from college in May. So finally getting done with that. So you can, from fourth grade to where I am now, you can calculate all of that to see the years that I've been here. But it's definitely been a while. Gotcha. And from there, I've just been, in the city, just trying to hone in my craft. And because all of the work that I've done has been during school, I've been able to use extracurricular activities at school, after school programs and activities to really branch out and kind of see what it is that I wanted to do to go from there and look at a career path.
That is amazing. So what I want to ask, first question is, out of, you probably could have went anywhere. Why did you decide to stay in the Chi?
What better place can I go? This is the greatest city in the world. There's no better place to go. We're the third largest city in the country, and they always say if you can make it here in Chicago, you can make it anywhere. So there's so much that Chicago has to offer. There's we hear so much about this idea that you have to make it and leave and go somewhere else and give that money, give that talent, give those gifts to someone. But it's like, hey, we can stay right here in Chicago and we can give that to ourselves. And one of the things that I love to challenge is this idea of negative stereotypes that are on people like me and people in Chicago. So my belief is you don't have to necessarily change yourself. You look at people who you see and you think, okay, they're from some type of affluent neighborhood, or they're from a location where everyone's doing great things, but they weren't born there. They're not from there. So stay in the place that made you, stay in the place that trained you, and you can change that stereotype yourself by representing who you are, where you come from. And as we say, rep your set.
There you go. I love that. And that's the reason why I felt like I was led to have you on this show, because some of the sentiments of what you just said, we don't have to change who we are. No. It doesn't matter if you come from Chicago or if you come from Cali or, the roughest parts of those areas. We don't have to become a product of our environment. We definitely have the know-how and the go-to to be able to change and be able to show something more positive of where we're from. You know what I'm saying? It's not always, and let's talk about that, because everybody act like, if you live in Chicago that, like, it's like the worst place to be, and as you're saying, you utilize Chicago, and even in the protests, you utilize where you were from to actually bring positive images from the book that you put out.
Yeah. So from there, one of the things that really leads to the negative portrayals of any location, place, or person is ignorance and not having that information. So one of the biggest arguments that Chicagoans have with non-Chicagoans is people from the suburbs wanting to claim they're from Chicago. And it's like, you're not from Chicago. What high school did you go to?
There you go.
What I'm saying is, hey, if you're from that suburb, be proud to be from that suburb. Be someone that we can think of that suburb and say, oh, this is where that person's from. So they have to be able to produce good people. So here in Chicago, one of the things that I wanted to do with covering and protest and making this book was show the fact that I can tell the 100% truth and still get my message across that Chicago is built on peace, love, joy, and there's some fantastic people here doing some fantastic work, because those images get left out. And being someone that's been in charge of my own content, looking at how folks are interacting with it, as you see, I respond to my own DMs, I respond to my own emails. I've been able to watch and see what folks are interested in, which kind of stories that I'm talking about are making national headlines or international headlines, and work to change that. And like you said over in the intro, cement that down in history so that for generations to come, people can see what we did here in 2020 and beyond.
That's dope. That is amazing. I love that. And what you said is key. Hey, Sandy, thank you for joining us. That's my sister Divine. Thank you for joining us. Hey, Rita, thank you for joining us, cuz I love you. Here's the thing. What you said was key. People always ask me, like, where you from? I'm not saying I'm from Chicago. I'm from Waukegan, Illinois. That's where I'm from. About 45 minutes away from the city. That's how you're going to find out where I'm from. And that's key, because we all have to be proud of where we come from. Yes, we're close to Chicago, but we have not experienced the things that you have experienced growing up in Chicago and living in Chicago. It's a totally different situation.
Yeah.
Like you said, I'm from the suburbs, so I live in a suburb. You know what I'm saying? So that is key. We got to be able to be confident in where we're from, truly, right? So I love that you said that. Now, out of 17,000 images, and for y'all that don't know, the name of the book is entitled Chicago Protest, A Joyful Revolution. Now,
right here.
There it is right there. Now, I want to ask you this. A joyful revolution. Tell us what that means to you as far as this book.
Yeah, so over the summer, as you all know, we had a ton of protests and civil unrest and demonstrations and actions here in Chicago, all around the world. So I went out and I started, the very first one that I covered was on May 30th. And from there, I'm talking, there were times where I was going back to back, day after day after day, covering multiple actions in a day. And I looked at what I was covering. There were some times where there would be 10, 15 other news stations there. And there were many other times where I was the only camera present. So one of the things that I always had to keep in the back of my head was, how are we a city of 2.7 million people, all of these news outlets, and yet no one is here? All of these photographers, and I'm the only one covering this for those specific instances. So I wanted to really make sure that what I was showing people was going out and going further. And like, as you mentioned, you read about me in a news article. So I knew that social media wasn't enough to reach out to people, because I was only talking to my echo chamber. I was only talking to folks with like-minded ideals who are following me to see that kind of content. So I wanted to branch it out. And that's where the idea of the book came from. But from there, with the title, I took a step back, looked at all of the images that I took, and I said, okay, the underlying theme that I see here is joy. And from that, you know, the title of the book isn't what I want the book to be portrayed as. It's what I saw. And I'm allowing you to get the book, and you can come in and you can have a different opinion. But I promise you, if you are able to be open and accepting to the facts, you have to understand that it's joy. So if you look at the photo that's on the front of the book, we call this the modern day sit-in. So like, these young people sat inside this location. But if you think about the history of sit-ins, you're maybe at some type of location or a restaurant, and you don't move until you get moved, which typically ends in violence. But the people of today and the young folks of today, our modern day sit-in is, we're going to come inside your house, we're going to dance, and we're going to play music, and we're going to have a party. So you're starting to see those tides are changing, and it's built on that joy, because you can change someone with peace, you can change someone with a smile, and keeping that fight up. And I wanted to make sure that I can use my talents of photography to branch that out to a larger audience.
That is amazing. Like, that just really hey, that's what it is. That's what it felt like. I'm telling you. So out of 17,000, y'all heard what I just said, 17,000 images Vashon had. 17,000 images.
17,000.
How were you able?
Yeah.
Plus. Okay. How were you able to narrow down the images that you were going to put into the book?
So I'll take you back to my starts of photography. And, I'm not that old, but at the same time, I was, born at a time where I can see the tides changing. So my first introduction to photography was through a disposable camera. The Kodak cameras you can buy from Walgreens. And if you think back to that time, you had a certain number of shots, maybe
Right.
30 or so, and that was it. And you couldn't see the picture. You wind the camera up, you snap it, and what you get is what you get. When you take it to the store, you get it developed.
Right.
So my beginnings of photography was like, okay, I'm at this place, I'm covering this, I'm taking pictures of this, but I have a limited number of shots. So how can I think about this in a way of capturing the moment that best represents what's going on here? And
Mm-hmm.
that was before I moved into now, because photographers of today, if you get a cell phone, you can take a million pictures and then pick the one you like the best. You couldn't do
Right.
that when I first started out on this. So I was going through some of the photos in here are from moments that I was able to already put out, because when I go to the protest, I would do a live Twitter thread. I'm making tweets and I'm posting videos and I'm showing what's happening there. So I was just trying to get an idea of, you're coming out here for what? What's your demand? What's your purpose? So what are the images that best represent that? Because we all know the power of a photograph. I can go to an event for an hour and take a photo that shows 1 second and completely change the narrative. So I really wanted to look and figure out what was the best so I can portray that. And then people are even able to go through my social media to find more that didn't make it into the book.
Dope, 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 dope. Now, let's talk about what you were going through in your mind. Like, this had to be crazy for you because, as you said, you were going, going, going. And I know for
Yeah.
me, it was just so many things happening
Mhm.
every single day, all day, sun up to sundown, things were happening. So, take us back to the summer. What
Yeah.
was going on in your mind? Like, what were you thinking when you were, actually taking shots of all that was going on?
Yeah. So the very beginning, you have to give honor and respect to the fact that we were out there because of the killing of George Floyd and countless others that we've lost to, state sponsored violence in this country. So I wasn't excited to be out here. I wish that I didn't have to do any of this. I wish that we didn't have to go out here and protest and fight for our basic rights and humanity. But I found comfort around my people. And the photo that I always say is my
Right.
favorite is from Juneteenth. We're all in Daily Plaza swag surfing, because the very first day I went out there, May 30th, was a day where police officers were beating people in the streets. This was before all of the bridges were raised, so the bridge leading to Trump Tower was still down. And that's where the biggest clash happened at. And I was in there, right there at the police line, getting pushed with the shields, feeling the batons on my body. And from there, I knew, okay, this is a large fight. We're thinking about, police violence in a different city, but we have police officers right here in Chicago that's fighting for those basic humanities and rights. But every single day, there was a different type of, just feeling among the place, just because Chicago is such a large and diverse city. All of the protests in the book weren't for the same thing. If you go through the book, you're going to find a Trump rally in here. You're going to find a pro-police rally in here. I went and I talked about all of that. So there were so many different issues. But one of the things that I learned over the summer the most was just how ingrained systemic racism is and how many places is that. Because it's like, yeah, we're talking about police officers stop killing us, but at the same time, there's so much more we have to fight for. There's so much more we have to do. And even on my end, just, the news narrative and what the news shows and what they cover and they don't cover, that was something that I was going after to change myself.
Now that's good. And that's what I wanted to hear because like you said, it wasn't something that we were excited about or that we were happy about having to
Yeah.
even cover. It just hurt. It hurt a lot. It was a lot of things on in people's minds as to how are we still here? Like how are we still at this point in America?
Yeah.
And those things happen. We're at the same things are occurring. So it was a very dreary feeling for a
Mhm.
lot of African American people, brown people, everybody. Everybody felt
Yeah.
something during this time. Um,
I'm not sure if you all can still hear me on the live, but she cut out for a second. I think we're just having those internet connection difficulties. So I'm waiting to see if she's going to pop back in so I can get the end of that question. Okay, yeah. So it looks like she's out with those internet connection difficulties, but I'll just go ahead and continue just talking a bit about the previous point with the book itself. So, I went out there and I covered this. Looked like we have her back again. So I would just, going to go through a little bit more about the book. But if you had a question that you were posing at the end, I can go ahead and take that.
No, finish what you were doing. Go ahead. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So, over the summer, there was so many things that we saw and that we've seen. And one of the, driving forces for the book was this idea that the news cycle changes very quickly. And we all know that there can be a story out today, and then 5 minutes later, bigger news can come trump that. So I knew that we had to get this down. And if we talk about like Black history in this country, you think about the African-American experience. And one of the first things that you're taught is slavery. Mm-hmm. And it's like, do we not have any history before slavery? Like what happened? We were on this earth, but that's not taught. Right. So we think about school and we think about history books. We don't know who's making these history books. We don't know the names of these people. We don't know what stake they have in these communities, but yet their books are being taught to all of us at the same time. So one of the things that I wanted to show people was that we can craft our own history books. So I went out here and I thought, I'm taking these photos. I'm here. I have the license to make this book because I've lived this and I've experienced this. So one of the main reasons for making a book was to get it down tangibly, because the internet, as we see, the internet can cut you off right now. Our accounts can be suspended today and we can go out. But as long as you take care of this book, it's yours to pass down forever. No one can take away that book from you, that piece of paper. So when, my kids and generations are looking at what happened back in 2020 and they're trying to, put some spin, put some narrative on it, someone who wasn't there talking about it, I want someone to be able to say, hey, I got this book that has these photos that show what really happened in 2020. Like, yeah, Black people came out and we were in the struggle and we fought. But at the same time, we were able to live our lives in peace. We were able to have some harmony. We were able to have some joy, because that's disheartening to hear that my ancestors struggled and suffered from the day they were born to the day they died.
Yes.
I want to hear about that. They had some type of moment to really live a little bit, and that they fought back and that they rebelled. So I really wanted to make sure that we can continue that tradition in such a digital society.
And that's dope, because you did say, I watched one of the interviews that you did, and you were just saying like, I want to create the story that they don't report on the news. So often the news is, there to give us the dreary and the horrible and the, what I'm saying, everything negative, put the negative spins on it all the time. But you were able to take even a negative situation, a not so great situation for us, and still spin it and be able to show, hey, Black people are out here and we're protesting, and we're protesting peacefully. What was that like, just knowing that I have the power, like you have the power to put out the news as you see fit?
So during the time, I honestly didn't realize the impact that it was having on people, because it was so much of taking everything day by day that I'm just looking at it from what's going on, what's next. This is the first time that I've been able to really take a step back and look at it from a whole, because I truly believe that what I'm doing does not have to be unique and shouldn't be unique, because we all have the power to do this work. I'm coming out here on no one's inviting me out to these protests. I'm just showing up with my camera and doing it. So I encourage more people to come out here. So the proudest moments for me, aside from any interview or any accomplishments, my proudest moment is when someone says, hey, I saw your coverage, so I came out to the protest. I've had photographers that have reached out and they wanted to come out and cover this. So getting more people involved in this work is really what happens. But I've been able to just see so much. Really, when we look at organizations, they're the ones that lead protests. There are not many times where individuals just jump up and can get a crowd together. It has to be some type of organization who has a specific set of demands or purposes, and they stick to that. So I didn't see that much of cross-referencing with different organizations merging just all across the city. So I was really able to go out and see a side of Chicago that many folks didn't see. And, I have to also mention we are in a global pandemic. So not everyone can make it out. Even if they want to go protest, you just probably can't run that risk. So really just bringing that to the people, but also just realizing that, you know, one of the biggest things that we say at protest is we keep us safe. And just the idea behind that is we have the resources to take care of ourselves. So the anatomy of a protest, these are really well-oiled machines. And I was really shocked to see this. But, you know, there are people whose job is to be a bike marshal. And those are allies who serve as a barrier between police officers and demonstrators. There are people who stand along the line, and the entire thing they do, the entire protest, is give you food and give you water. They're street medics, people who come out with all the medical supplies and take care of you. So there were so many times where if there was like an agitator or someone, you know, counter protest coming in to disrupt things, the people took care, even when police officers were there and inactive, the people, we took care of that ourselves. And that was the most beautiful thing, just seeing folks come together and that unity and harmony, and realizing that we have some fantastic people in Chicago. And if we can lift up their organizations and we can fund the work that they're doing, you know, we can really be in a better position.
And that's amazing, because that goes to any city, wherever you are. We have to start understanding that we all have power to come together and unify. That's one of the biggest things. You know, I believe that there's so much pride and ego that get in the way oftentimes with us coming together and unifying. But I feel like even in 2021, I feel like this is the year that we need to really come together and unify and be real with it. You know what I'm saying? Because there's so much that's going on in the world. There's so many things that, you know, happen day after day. We're in a pandemic. So I think that 2021 is the year that we need to show forth and come forth and really unify. Now, I read also that you empower and you like to encourage young people in the city of Chicago. And that just struck me because, you know, I work with young people as well. What would be something that you would like to, you know, give the young people to inspire them to continue to do work, you know, like this, work in the community, so that they are able to see really what's happening out here?
So that goes back to one of the points that I said earlier. And I recently did an interview with a high school student who had to do a paper for her after school, like summer project. And one of the things that I told her was that don't look at me as an outlier. Look at me as an example of what we're all capable of when we're given the opportunities to showcase our God-given talents. So do the work that you're doing because you want to do it and it comes from the heart. Don't do it for fame. Don't do it for money. Because when I went out here, and you know, now it's like people look at my social media and they see the followers. But when I started going out to these protests, I had maybe 1,500 followers on Twitter. All of that growth happened in a short period of time, but I've been covering protests for years. I wasn't seeing, you know, anything out of it. I was getting like a couple likes on Twitter, you know, or a couple views on the internet, but all of that work was building me up to a higher place. So I and one of the, you know, I really have to make sure that people understand the fact that you have to be good to people. And you have to, you know, stay true to yourself. And your path and your gifts, all of that will come to you, and you will be rewarded. You'll be blessed from that. So it's like stay true. Your gift will make room. Your gift will make room for you, and it's like, and just go for it and just do it, because what you think that you want to do or what you think your path is, you don't need 1 million followers to do specific work. You don't need hundreds or thousands of views. Just that one person. Maybe the person that you were set and meant to impact in that time period. And it's like after the protest, more folks have seen my work now than anything that I've done during the summer. But none of that discouraged me from covering it. None of that discouraged me from taking these photos, because you have to understand that we all have different ways that we can impact the world, but there's so much to do. You know, I'm doing photography, but we can have someone out here doing video. We can have someone out here writing their own stories about it. So there are just so many ways to attack it. But, you know, as long as you're being good to yourself, being good to people, it will be much easier for you.
And that's dope. Let me tell y'all why that's so dope. It's because he's promoting that he's not the only one that has the gifts to do this. We all can do it. Like, if you have the gift of photography, you can go out and you can make your own lane. You can go out and you can cover these stories and you can get this information. And that's amazing to me, because I remember as I was a blogger in Atlanta, I went to women empowerment events. I bought my ticket and I went and I covered the event because I was interested in the event and I wanted to know what it was about. And I was able to, really share with other people what these events were about. So that's positive, and that's the most unique thing that I can say I've heard from anybody, being able to encourage everybody that we all can go out and do the same things. Like, there's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of work to be done. So if we all are out doing the work, then we will be able to see some substantial change, some powerful change, if we all go out and do the work. So I love that. I thank you for encouraging everybody that, they can too do the same
Yeah.
thing. Now you're studying, you studied the arts. You've received your associates from Kennedy King College, and now you're at Columbia, right? So that means that generally you're a creative person, right? What words can you give to creatives right now? I know we've kind of touched on it a little bit about, how they can go out and do the same. Can you give any words of encouragement or inspiration for them to push through in 2021 with their creative?
So the year that we just came out of was an unprecedented year, and it was hard on many of us. And I really took time to reflect on this during the holidays and during Thanksgiving and during Christmas, when I'm generally around my family, but my large extended family. But now it's like just the immediate folks that I live with. And we have to understand that if you made it to see today, that's an accomplishment. That's a win. So don't compare yourselves to other creatives. And one of the other portions that we don't talk about that much is this idea that we all have our, small privileges and small places that have helped us get to where we are. So, with me, I make a point to talk about the fact that I was doing photography way beforehand, using disposable cameras, using it when I was younger, and just building different skills to get to this place, because there's legwork that you have to put into it. A lot of times I see photographers who start this work off and it's maybe their first year of photography, and they're like, why don't I have, thousands and thousands of followers? Why am I not getting this? It's like, hey, you have to do the work. And as a creator, what we've, come to understand is your age has nothing to do with your creativity, because you can be 60 years old and start being a photographer at 60. But if you see me and that 60-year-old photographer, you're going to think that they're more experienced because they're older, but they just started a year ago. So it's like, allow, your age and your mindset in order to do that, because with photography, the biggest thing, and this is what I encourage folks to photograph their own communities first, because no one can tell your story better than you can. And the world is rapidly changing. So it's like, even now, my elementary and high school experience is much different from what they're going through now with their remote learning. So even though I'm, 3.5 years removed from high school, I can't really speak on high school because I don't know what it's like to be a high school student through this pandemic. So you're understanding that young people have that direct knowledge of right now, what life is like right now. And we can speak on that, we can touch on that, and just coming together, because there were moments over the summer where I was getting a helping hand from different independent photographers, getting a ride to a protest, getting a ride home. We're sharing information with each other. We're sharing, like, there was a day, this is August 15th, and this was one of the days where the protests and police really got bad. And there was a lot of clashes, and I actually got pepper sprayed on this day because I was in the crowd taking photos. And I'll never forget, I made a tweet that I got pepper sprayed, and other photographers saw my tweet and ran and found me to make sure I was okay and to render aid and offer that assistance that I needed in order to make sure that we're pushing through. So it's like, there's a team of people that it takes for everyone to get everywhere. So all of us coming together and not having that crabs in a barrel mindset is the best way for us to learn and grow, because Chicago, we have everybody here, and there's enough opportunity for us all to succeed.
That is amazing. Just the fact that we can continue to hear from you about, in spite of being pepper spray, you're still able to get a helping hand from people. You're still able to meet with other photographers and collaborate with them. And I think for this reason alone, this is an amazing interview, because I need for entrepreneurs and people that are creative, whoever, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're in school, whatever the case may be, I need for everyone to understand, just by Vashon's testimony here, it's okay for us to help one another. It's okay for us to collaborate. There's no information that you give away that you're going to lose something in your business or in your craft if you give it to someone. So pay it forward. It's okay to share information. And I think that's where it comes in, where it's that crab in the barrel mentality, where nobody
Mhm.
wants to give you a hand. If you feel like if you give somebody a hand that you're going to get knocked down, no, that's actually the best way to elevate. The best way to elevate is to help your fellow man, help him up, pick him up. So if you continue to, understand that a helping hand goes a long way. Vashon said something earlier. He said you have to be nice to people. Just be pleasant to people. Like, in this day and age, a smile doesn't hurt. A hello doesn't hurt. I can only imagine being pepper sprayed, seeing the police, kind of going at people and things like that, and still having to be kind, still having to be nice, still wanting to, say hi to people. Like, we still had to do those things. What I did notice is during the protest, and even now, I noticed that we went to Kenosha when the situation with Jacob Blake happened.
Mhm.
And I noticed that people were just, speaking. And, 9 times out of 10, you go places and people won't speak to you. But it was just an influx of like people speaking, saying hello, hey, how are you? Did you
Yeah.
experience those type of situations where you just was like, wow, this is good?
Yeah, and among the people, because we saw a lot of white people that were coming out to protest over the time. And one of the comments that I got from a person was like, a white young person was like, my parents didn't want me to come out to the protest. They were scared of it, and they were seeing the news and how bad they were. But I was able to show them your coverage and see they're really nice people out here. So it was like, when you come out here to the protest, you have nothing to be afraid of amongst your people.
Right.
And, like, there is one entity of people who are willing to attack you and are willing to harm you, but us all coming together in that community, it's like, I've met some of the nicest people. Like, I'll see them on that microphone and they'll be firing off, but then they're the same person that's helping you out. And at the end of every protest, we do this thing where we make sure everyone gets home safely, especially at night.
Yes.
So you make a circle, and if you drove, you hold up the number of fingers that represents the number of seats you have available in your car.
Oh, wow.
So if you needed to get home, if you were with two people, you will look for someone who has two fingers up or more, and you all buddy together and they get you home. They also had funds available to give you Uber or give you Lyft credits to get where you needed to be, in different sponsorships. So just seeing everyone come together was one of the most beautiful things. And that's why I tell people, what I did this summer didn't feel like work. I was having a good time amongst the people, and there was so much there to just showcase, because we realized how precious life is.
Yes.
And you can't take that work for granted. I don't know how we're on time. If I could just talk a little more about that piece
You're
there.
fine.
So maybe 3 or 4 years ago, it's like all a blur, but I had my own near-death experience.
Okay.
I was hit by a car on my way to go to school. Jacked up. I broke my elbow, I broke my tibia, and an accident that people are not supposed to survive.
Wow.
But after that experience, and my parents and friends would tell you, I did a 180 in my life and in my craft, because I realized just how precious life is and how quickly it can be taken away from you. And I use that to guide me and propel me. And I think a lot of people who you really see working, and they're working super, super hard, almost like, it's abnormal, because we have those moments where we realize, okay, let me get myself together and really work, because you realize just how fragile it is and how blessed you are to be here.
Yes. That is amazing. Yes, that's exactly what it is. Like, until, like, I just feel like a lot of people have that moment in life where something occurs or something happens, and you're like, okay, wait a minute. Life is not going to stop. Time is not going to stop. I got to get to it. And it's purposeful. operating in your purpose and what you're called to do and what you're gifted to do, it's not work. You know, it doesn't feel like work because it's really not work. It's what you were designed to do and what you were created to do, you know, what you were gifted to do. So we all have many gifts. We all have many talents that we're blessed with. But once you start to identify those talents and operate in those talents, then it doesn't feel like work. So I thank you for sharing that piece of your testimony. I want to thank you. What's next? What's next for Vashon?
Yeah, 2021, you know, when I was thinking about this year previously, 2020 was supposed to be my relax and my chill year, my last full year of school, hanging out before life begins. And you see that didn't go according to plan.
Right.
But 2021, you know, I'm graduating college in May, which is a big deal because now it's time for me to really go into the world of full-time work.
Yes.
So, you know, I'm excited to see where that takes me. I have a few projects coming up around the city with different things that I'm doing with photography, more things with the book, continuing this craft because I'm a photographer, but I'm in school for television with a concentration of production. I'm not a photography major. I'm a TV major.
Awesome.
So, you know, the goal is like to work in the TV studio.
No,
So
that's amazing.
yeah, that's totally, you know, different than what I'm doing now. So just really excited to see, you know, where I go from here, which paths I go into, because there's so many ways from like news, photojournalism, which is what I've been doing over the summer, from just freelance event, sport photography to TV production. There's so many avenues, but I'm really just keeping myself open to it all.
That's dope. Listen, y'all better look out for Vashon Jordan Jr. I'm telling y'all, I just ran up on him, luckily reading an article, but it was the most amazing thing to hear his story, to hear his process, to hear bits of his testimony. Y'all look out for him because he is definitely going to be around. I look forward to seeing where you go in the future. If you guys do not have his book, please go and get his book. Vashon, I wanted to ask, do you have any books that I can get that you could sign for somebody?
Yeah, so the thing about the books is they're all printed by Amazon. I don't actually have that inventory available, but we can probably work something out when we actually get the. You're in Chicago, right?
I'm in Waukegan.
Waukegan. So, you know, we can try to work something out with there, but all of the books are on Amazon and they're printed and shipped directly from them. If you have Amazon Prime, you can get it in 1 to 2 days. So, you know, very fast shipping. You know, I try to make sure I keep them as affordable as possible while covering all of the costs that I incur with it.
Gotcha. So, guys, for those that are on here, I am going to grab a couple copies of his book. If you would want a copy of the book, please inbox me and I'll get you a copy of the book. So I'll have 2 on hand.
Sandy Scott needs one.
Sandy Scott, I'm gonna get you a book, sis. I'm gonna go ahead and send out a book to you, sis. I got your address. And then if there's anybody else that would like a book, I'm gonna go ahead and I'll go on Amazon and get the books. And then I will send them out to you because I definitely want to do anything that I can to support Vashon and his efforts and what he has done because it is great. He has definitely stamped history, stamped his name on history, leaving a legacy for his family and his generations to come. So I am excited about that for you. Tell people where they can find you.
So you can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Twitter at Vashon_photo and the name VASHON_photo. Right here on Facebook, which is my actual name, Vashon Jordan Jr. You can see me there. I have the same profile picture on all platforms, so look for that photo. I think I'm like looking off into the winds, and you can see me on all of those platforms.
Awesome. Vashon, again, this was an amazing interview. I thank you for your time today, sir. I appreciate you rocking with Radical Radio, and I send to you all blessings and abundance for 2021. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me. I had a great time with you.
You're welcome.
See ya.
All right, y'all. So that was our guest for the hour, our radical guest for the hour. I want to thank you guys for joining us on Radical Radio. We will be back next Monday at 8 p.m. Please join us. We would love to have you. As always, be you, be free, be radical. I love you guys. Make sure you go ahead and tune in on YouTube. Go ahead and like and subscribe. Hit the bell so that you can know when we are live on YouTube. So I love you guys. You guys have a great night.